Hi there. We're going to talk about using screen bottom boards and sticky papers for monitoring mites in our colonies. Now let's show you how that works and set up. We'll have a look at the bits and pieces. So here we're at one of our hives that's set up with a screen bottom board on it. The bottom board is down here. It's a normal bottom board, but our bottom boards are cut so they're flush with the box. And then we have a frame here as a screen built into it. I'll show you what that looks like. There's the normal bottom board. It would normally be positioned like this with the entrance going out that way. And to set this up, what we do is we turn that around. And then on top of that, we put our screen bottom board. And we put that in a way that the entrance is facing this direction. So that's still the entrance now. And then we insert a piece of masonite that acts as a tray in here. So that tray stays in there all the time and it collects debris that falls down onto that. When we want to be testing for Varroa mite levels, we put our sticky paper in here. We'll show you how to prepare that sticky paper in a moment. But that sticky paper goes in and sits on top of this tray in there, and then we close that up. Again, all that's happening down here on the bottom of the hive. So when we want to monitor our mites, we can put that in, we leave it in for 3 days, we pull that out, and then we count the mites. We can then we divide by 3, and so we can calculate a daily mite fall with that. So these screen bottom boards have some advantages. Once they're set up on a hive, you can monitor for mites at any time, quite simply. It's non-destructive. You don't have to kill any bees to do this testing. And for our research purposes, we are able to monitor how effective our miticides are on a daily basis. We can constantly be replacing these every 3 days, and then we know how well the miticides are working in a colony. So there's some real advantages to having this set up. We have plans for constructing these on our website. They're also on the Ontario Beekeepers Association website. Very simple little device. Now let's have a look and see how we prepare these sticky boards. Nancy's going to show us how we prepare our sticky papers and what materials we use.
Hi. So first of all, we use a file folder that's the lightest color. This is manila that we can find because we want to have a good contrast between the mites, which are kind of a dark brown, and the paper. So this is important, first of all, to have the right color of file folder. It's a messy job, so you want to make sure that you've got something set up that's protecting your surface. And then we use a little tiny paint roller. These are available even at the dollar store. They're quite cheap. And then we're going to coat really thickly this entire surface with Crisco. And we've melted it here on a little heater. You can use a pot. We just use the simplest thing possible. And this works really great for us. And so you're just going to want to coat this up.
Looks good. So do you do this just before you use them then, Nancy?
Yeah, so we don't want to do this too early because we want to really make sure that the mites are sticking to this surface. The other thing that we're going to do is when we go out to the hive, we're going to be sure that we use some sort of identifier. Here we use numbers, but you can use the color of the hive or the location, whatever works for you. But it's really important to put that in a couple of different places just in case it doesn't show up when you take it out. And you always want to use a pencil. Pen will deteriorate over time and you can't read it. So
right. So it's not really sticky, it's just kind of gooey and the mites stick to it somewhat.
yeah.
Now we used to use insect trap coatings. It was far too sticky. Everything was sticky. Our phones, our door handles. This is much nicer to use. So Stephanie is going to bring in a sticky paper here, just fresh out of a hive, and show you how we count them.
Yeah, so when we collect a sticky paper, we leave them in for 3 days. When we take them out, they have quite a lot of debris that you'll have to sift through to find those mites. So when you bring them to your table, I like to use a pencil and make a grid to be able to keep track of what I'm counting. So just whatever size grid you're comfortable with. And then within each square I like to count up how many mites, and if there are quite a lot of mites you can write down the number and you just start sifting through the debris. You may have to move around anything to get under to see where the mites are, but you just start counting.
And what do you look for to differentiate the mite from all that debris?
Yeah, so the mites are quite shiny and very kind of hard looking, as opposed to other debris that might be soft that you can poke with your pencil. They're going to be very oval, and they may even have their legs still attached. So you want to look for anything that is that distinctly different than the rest of the debris.
Right, so you count out each grid, write the numbers down, and then tally the whole group?
Yes.
That gives you your 3-day count, and then what do you do?
And then once we've counted up the paper, we use this Excel sheet that we've printed out. It has our information for the yards, so we have our yard identifier, our colony number, the dates that we had them in and that we took them out, the number of mites that are on the entire page, and then we divide by, in our case, 3 for the amount of days that it was in, and then that will give you the mites per day in your colonies, and those correspond to different levels of acceptable mites that you could have.
It's a pretty simple process, somewhat time consuming, but it does give you a real good snapshot there, and this is the method that we use most frequently for monitoring mites in our colonies. And coming up next, we'll look at an alcohol wash method.